Hello everybody. Welcome to the stream where we're going to have a little bit of a natter, a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of a talk about the ongoing bits of Leeds United news. Now, let's get on with the obvious beginning thing. One, my sound might be a little bit awful. It might be a little bit more echoey. Two, where's it all gone? I don't know. Well, I do. It's in the other room. It's in the spare room that is becoming our bedroom because our bedroom is becoming a nursery. But the office is staying an office, but I'm doing a rework on it. But it's fun anyway. Yeah, what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days is recarpeting this room entirely, which means that I need to get everything out of here, including this first, but I don't want to take apart my setup right now because if I do that, then I won't be able to do any streams from that point until I've fixed anything. So I'm going to do today's stream, tomorrow's video, and then I'm going to take apart my desk. Just so everyone is aware of what's going on with all of that. Another thing that everyone should be aware of what is going on with is the Leeds Creator Cup. As always, I'm going to do this ad read. I'm going to do this ad read until enough of you have gotten tickets to the Leeds Creator Cup. So if you want me to shut up about the Leeds Creator Cup, it is a big charity match featuring all of your favourite Leeds United creators that were uninjured or lived reasonably within travelable distance. I'm not excluding you this time, Whitesnake. And it's all for Prostate Cancer UK. £7 a ticket for adults, £3 a ticket for kids at the John Scholl Centre for Sport on the 20th of July. Be there or be... Squares are too cool for you, actually. Be there or be a rhombus, you silly rhombus. Ha. Anyway. Also subscribe to the channel, because for every subscriber I've gotten at that point, I will be donating a penny to Prostate Cancer UK, which adds up when you're 6.17k subscribers. Anyway, let's have a little bit of a natter. So we've had several various bits of news floating around the place at the moment. Also, if anyone at any point has any questions or anything, or wants a specific topic to be discussed, just shout it in the chat at me, because that'll be all good. This is a less planned than usual stream. It's not super structured. It's just going to be nice and chill. We've had a couple of bits of news. The first is going to be on Paixao, who is the Brazilian winger currently at Feyenoord. Bunch of goals and assists last season. Very, very, very good player, but is looking for a move somewhere next season. Thankfully, there was a little bit of news earlier today that noted that Paixao is looking at a potential move away from Feyenoord, because he's got plenty of interest from us, from Brighton, and from various other places. And we had a little bit of a breakthrough today in which we discovered that Paixao would be interested in a move to Leeds United, which is quite good, but we would need to meet some conditions. The conditions I do not personally know as of yet. I'm just going to have a quick double check. I'll find out. Hi, John Dale from Halifax. Great show. Who's your number one choice for the keeper? I will get to that in a minute, so I'm going to star that comment, and I will get to that shortly, but we'll get there soon. But yes, Paixao is one of the players that I would very much like us to sign. Having a attacking winger that is able to do all of the things that we need a winger to do, not only score goals but set them up, is absolutely perfect. And it feels like he would fit into the sort of present existing system that we have very, very nicely. Very strong dribbler, very good at passing, very good at shooting, very good winger. 40 million euros was the quoted price point, and I genuinely think that isn't too much of a piss take for how good this guy is. It's just a question of whether or not we are umphy, is the word I'm going to go with. Whether or not we are umphy enough to get that move done. And I hope we are. That'd be quite good. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, if anyone hasn't liked the stream yet as well, haha, please do so. That'd be massively appreciated. I hate the transfer window as a Leeds fan. You see, I quite like it. And it's not necessarily because we either do or we don't sign certain players, because that's always going to be up in the air and no one knows what's particularly going on with all of that. The part of it that is especially interesting to me, and I'm just going to quickly search the answer for a different question in the meantime, The reason that I quite like it is we learn a hell of a lot about a lot of footballers, and I like learning things. It's a nice position to be in, to be able to say, look, okay, we might not have signed anyone yet, and that's fine because it's always going to take a little while to sign people. You can't expect to do so on the first day of the window. But at least we're learning a lot about a lot of different footballers, and that is fascinating to me. Not too much, no, just having a bit of a general transfer chatter today, including various bits of news that have occurred today, which I'll get to in a little bit. On this, can you play in different positions? This is the question that I was Googling the answer to. So if I go to share screen, Paixao, there we go. These are the positions that he played in the league over the last season. And his ratings in those positions. So whilst he has dropped in at central midfield a little bit, he only did so for one match and he didn't do particularly well. Has played out on the right a little bit, specifically once, but that'll be because of injury issues. Played left forward, I guess, left wing and left midfield, and he's been at the number 9 a little bit. Primarily, you're looking at him as a winger, but he can go all across the line. So it's not a bad player to be talking about at this early stage of the transfer window. I'm not very patient though. I understand, and I'm in the same boat with that. Having ADHD during the transfer window is great fun because it just means you're constantly scrambled. But it's one of those positions where you kind of need to take your time with it. To think the players that we sign are going to be good enough because they're putting a lot of time and effort into it, and they're going to be as high on the list of players as we can feasibly get. So you just got to wait for the right players to be signed, is the way I'd put it. Joel, I can't wait to see who we get next month. Yeah, it might not even necessarily be next month because we can, in theory, still sign players during this mini window and before the 1st of July. I know a lot of people saw that thing that Joe Donahue put out, but that isn't a hard, fast rule that we're not allowed to sign anyone before the 1st. If we sign someone prior to that, then it doesn't do any huge damage to this season's PSR. And this season's PSR, by the way, is very, very healthy. Because consider all the sales that we made at the start of the season, except Archie, that all comes into this season. So that's high 70s, 80 million pounds. Admittedly, signings that we made last season, taken out of that. Wages spent, taken out of that. But the idea that we can't sign anyone until July isn't totally accurate. We might make the decision to do so, but at the end of the day, it's a choice. And it's up to us whether or not we make that choice. Who are we talking about? We are talking about Paixao, who Ellenbach has asked, is he a realistic target? I saw his stats on who scored the best in the entire Dutch league. Fair. However, when it comes to interest in him, there's not been a ton of clubs linked. So if I do a very, very quick search for Igor Paixao, a fresh report from Leeds Live states that Paixao is now open to a move to West Yorkshire. The report goes on to say that a suitable offer would need to be made for Feyenoord to allow him to depart. That is the approximately 40 million euros that people are talking about. And then it comes down to personal terms because it wouldn't be a very cheap move. Because Paixao will look at the Premier League and see there's a hell of a lot of cash in that league. I can make a decent sum through wages and stuff, which, fair enough, he could, absolutely, without a doubt. But we can afford it, is the main thing. And whilst we can say spooky things, like I will cover your question in a moment, Dale. Yeah, because whilst we can say things like he might go to Brighton and Arsenal were linked last season, sure, but they haven't been this season. And the thing that we can offer that those clubs can't is playing time. Because a lot of people thought Jorginho Rutter, he's gone to Brighton. He's going to get a decent amount of playing time because he's a very, very, very good player. But if I go to Brighton's page on FBref and I sort by minutes played, the highest forward on there is Mitoma. He only started 28 matches. Then it's Welbeck, who started 24. Then is João Pedro 23, Minte 20. Rutter played 19 off like in the 11. Adingra only started 12. When it comes to minutes, there's not tons to be found at Brighton. So if he really wants to make a noise for himself and sort of like show, look, I'm really, really good, even just use Leeds as a stepping stone, because at the end of the day, that's what Rafinha did, and it's completely understandable. But if he lands here, he's going to play more consistently than he would at a Brighton, which is at the end of the day what a lot of footballers want to do. Matoma potentially leaving opens the door for him. Is Matoma potentially leaving? Let's have a look. News around Matoma. There's not tons of news. There's bits of various clubs saying that they're scouting, but like Arsenal, for example, they don't particularly need a Matoma. So if he does, then yeah. 33 mil, I don't think we'll buy him. I think we will. I think that is genuinely the sort of sum of money that we will be putting out this season, because we've got a vast budget. It's big, and it's going to have to go to various places, and attacking players will cost more than the defensive players, and this is the perfect example of that for me. It'd be an unbelievable signing. It would be a real statement from the 49ers if they could get this done. Absolutely agreed. It would be great if we got him, but will we pay the asking price for him? I think yes. I think this is the season when the 49ers are going to learn that asking prices when you're looking for top tier players are not questions. They are, this is what you will pay, not will you pay this much? And I think they're smart enough to learn that lesson. Seriously speaking, I think a statement signing early makes the rest of the window easier, become an easier sell if we get someone reasonably high profile. Yeah, you get to basically say, look, Paixao has put his trust in us at Leeds United, and he was the best player in Eredivisie last season. If you are someone who is in the Bundesliga, mid-table Bundesliga side, you're probably looking at that and going, maybe. Because that's, I mean, it's fair enough. Solomon won't come in that case. I mean, yeah, obviously, they would play the same position, therefore Solomon probably gets edged out of that conversation. But in that case, I don't mind it that much. He'll play Premier League for Leeds, a Prem team will play for Europe soon. This is part of the thing, though, and part of what it links in what Mark was saying, and it's that as a Premier League side, if we make those early statement signings, then we're able to sort of build the momentum and sign another better player, and then another better player, and we build and we build and we build, and the ball is rolling, and you end up with a very, very solid window. But if you're doing what Ipswich did last season, and you end up signing players that are in the upper end of the Championship, but they're not significantly better than that, or you're signing players that are purely rejects from Premier League clubs, then you end up in that position of having a very unexciting window in which players outside of that look at it and go, you're at reasonable risk of going down. Why would I go to you when all it feels like I would be gaining is becoming a nice shiny prize that Leeds have signed and then gone down with and then potentially have to sell next season? That just becomes a bunch of problems, and I think we'll do what we can to avoid it. Not if Igor plays in another position. He's not played much in other positions, though, is the thing. Primarily, he's played out on the left, which is the same as Solomon. And I think of the two, I'd probably go Paixao. But it's hard to say. We paid a lot for Aronson, so yeah, I think he's in our price range. Yeah, I mean, the amount that we've been quoted for him, being 40 million euros, is less than we paid for Rutter, altogether combined, which doesn't make it like unthinkable money. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot, and that's like the way that football is going. You will be charged vast sums of money for decent footballers, but you get familiar with that, and I think Leeds are in a position where we are familiar with that, and we know what sort of direction we're going to be heading in going forwards. and I don't hate it too much. I think we're in an okay spot, is the way I'm going to take that. Why is Joe doing a watch along of Germany versus Portugal? That's a weird one. Was watching you on Joe's podcast on Big Up looking at potential goalkeepers. I can't help but feel at one stage Joe was getting. No, yeah, I know. It was fine. It was all good. I was trying to do the playful banter thing. I misread the tone. That's on me. But yeah, I can understand it being a stressy moment also. 38 mil. I thought it was 34. I don't know. And yeah, but that's because we got relegated. That you can see why that's a very different circumstance. Because if you get decent players having just been promoted, then the momentum comes in, and then that's absolutely fantastic, and it all starts to go well. But you're not going to build that momentum when you've been promoted, and then the next stage of the cycle. No, sorry, when you sign a very good player, the next stage of the cycle is you get relegated. Because who looks at that and goes, yeah, this is actually completely fantastic. I'm going to go there. No, no one would realistically do that. You probably need to stay up first. But being the start of the season, you get the opportunity to go, look, we're building up momentum here. Come over, join us in Leeds. Thorpe Arch, lovely place to go. And it sets you in the right direction. I think we get a keeper for well less than 30, brings up the fee for Igor. Indeed. Keepers do not tend to cost that much. Neither are great, and I'm with you. I want the best of the club, and if we get Igor and miss also. Okay. Oh, yeah, I get you. Yeah. We're really linked with Cameron Archer early, surely that's a big no. That, for me, feels like a very, very big no. For me, the Cameron Archer links are not what we want to be seeing. Because, I mean, the way that I put it in my video was he is a player that is currently at a side that got relegated last season and was deemed not good enough for them. Why, therefore, would he be good enough for us? I don't know if he would. It's tough. This brings us on to our goalkeeping conversation, in which Dale asked, hi Joe, Dale from Halifax, great show. Who's your number one choice for keeper? And he doesn't want Ramsdale. What do I think? Now, I haven't seen Joe's stream/video that covered the Ramsdale thing earlier. If anyone has, let me know his points and I will look to refute them. But for me, Ramsdale is very much not the one. And there's a few reasons for that I can get into in a little bit. But hang on, just thinking about something. But for now, Ramsdale is absolutely not for me. When it comes to the goalkeepers that I would be looking at, I would probably go with Dachmann at Augsburg. Is a very, very good goalkeeper that we've been linked with. Petrovic would be the absolute dream, as was mentioned by Jack. His shot stopping is very nice, and he's reasonably good with his feet. He's the perfect sort of combination-y player, but it's just a question of whether or not they want to release him. So if I give it a search, Georgi Petrovic, check news. It's looking like a potential £21 million fee. West Ham are looking at him. He's looking at a move to Monaco. Yeah, Petrovic is going to be tough. If we could manage this, Petrovic and Igor, then we are looking ridiculously good. Then that is probably the best window that a promoted side has had in quite some time. It's just a question of actually getting those moves done in the first place, because they're obscenely good players that will have a lot of interest, as we've seen with Igor Paixao having the eyes on him from Brighton as well, which complicates things. Pope, don't need goalkeeper, got Darlow, so 15, get another. No, but that's the thing, right? Because if you've got Darlow and you're seeing Darlow and you're like, cool, that's our first choice goalkeeper. What happens if Darlow gets a knock? If Darlow gets a knock, you down to Cairns, and Cairns, the last time he was a consistent goalkeeper, was in League Two, and that was more than a year ago. So whilst you could chuck Cairns in and you could say, no, fine, we won't need another goalkeeper, you kind of have to That's the thing. If Darlow does get injured as your starting goalkeeper, then your next goalkeeper is Alex Cairns, or is it Rory Mahady that's in the 18s, 21s? But even then, that's pushing it. Melier probably gets sold. Let's be honest. On this one, Michael, as far as I've been able to discern from research and all sorts, the issue with Kelleher was less one of a fee, and it was significantly more around where he wanted to go. So we would have absolutely matched that asking price as far as I'm aware. But when you look at the two clubs that are options, when you've got one club, which is Brentford, which is a Premier League staple at this point, basically, and you've got Leeds, who have just gotten promoted, have one of the weaker squads in the division because we've just come up and have had to sell the stars in the recent years, you put yourself in a position where you get a little bit like, which of the two am I going to pick? And obviously he's ended up picking Brentford, and it makes sense for him. It's annoying for us because we are still in the position where we're like, no, we're a bigger club than Brentford. Realistically, to players, we're not right now. And that's fine. That's completely understandable. But we sort of need to acknowledge this in order to make good decisions going forward. I think we'll have to get a goalkeeper in. I don't know who. I don't know how much. But I know who I'd like, but it's difficult. And you do need competition, because if you just got a goalkeeper, so if you've got Darlow, Cairns, then you get a bit spooky. Because again, Melier is going to be on the way out the door, and Darlow knows that Cairns isn't actually competing for his place. Cairns is there to fill a slot. Yeah, there's this as well. Like, Kelleher knew that he was going to get game time, which fixes the issue that John Bucks mentioned here. Anything else on Supercast? I've heard the interest isn't real. I have heard bits about the interest, yes, being real. If I was wrong, then I was wrong, and I completely accept that, and that's fine. Like, I saw what I was like very, very certain was an accurate story, and I went with it because I think a lot of the time, you'll get right. This is a thing that has bugged me for like an extended period of time, and I'm going to be very, very honest and open about it. Right. There have been several occasions where I have been aware of a bit of news from a source that I consider very, very reliable, and I have decided to not go with it because the people that watch my stuff wouldn't particularly care. This includes the Will Still to Southampton thing. I knew that about 2 days before that ended up happening, and various other bits and bats that are floating around. And many, 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 many times, I've sort of sat on it and decided to not do anything on it because I've thought, well, people won't particularly care about that. This time I did. So if this is the time that that source is wrong, I'm going to be absolutely livid because 99.9% of the time they've been spot on. So if my luck is like that, then I don't know what to do. Santos keeper Gabriel Paixao has been linked with us. Apparently Red Bull have a big scouting network. They do. I think they own Bragantino, maybe? Will be interesting to see what influence RB have on Leeds this summer. I don't think the influence will be too huge, to be honest. We'll find out. But I don't know. Liverpool went from also runs to champions largely by signing a top keeper and commanding centre-back plus a few others. We need to follow up the blueprint. I think that was the plan, because the idea is spine of the team, and we've heard that from a lot of different places now. It's just going to be up and down the middle, get the players, bosh, cool. New keeper 100% a good one. 2 ex-Prem players in the spine gives it. I'm not sure about ex-Prem. Like, a lot of people seem to have this feeling that the only people that can play in the Premier League are people that have already played in the Premier League. And that isn't necessarily the case. Thank you very much, Lee. If you haven't yet, by the way, and you're just in the stream, I'd hugely appreciate you popping a like on it. The more you do that, the more YouTube puts the stream out there and goes, you might want to watch this, to people that have a potential interest. So that'd be lovely. And if you haven't yet, subscribe as well. That'd be fantastic. And you clicking that button that's down here just under Lee saying rent paid means that another penny goes to Prostate Cancer UK on the day of the charity match, which is very, very important. right now, knowing the viewership figures that I have, about 95-ish% of my viewers are male. Which means that approximately 100 and... let's do the maths. 112. 112 of the people in here are going to be dudes. Based on data that has been collected over years and years and years, and it's not happy data, I'm sorry to say, but 1 in 4 men in their lives will get prostate cancer, which means that statistically, of the people watching this stream right now, 14 of you will at some point in your lives be diagnosed with prostate cancer. I'm including myself in that number. It's a scary thing. All of us will be affected by it in some regard. So supporting that charity is very, very important because it's also a form of cancer that is highly curable if it's caught early. And that's why I'm trying to do what I can to sort of back that charity in that regard. On that note, charity match tickets down below. Give them a boop. It's very, very, very affordable. £7 for adults, £3 for kids. And I hope we can see you there. Anyway. Hydro, question, what site or app did you use to show us Paixao play positions? It was whoscored.com, and I just zoomed in really, really, really far on the position map. If we can't afford Kelleher for his fee, which is in Leeds' ballpark, then realistically, who can Leeds attract? Unless Leeds offer them big salaries, money seems to talk. Well, that's the thing. Kelleher's got a very, very high opinion of himself. We know this because he thought that he could displace Allison at one point, which feels like a fairly daft decision. But it's a decision that he made. And now he's ended up at Brentford. And he's gone there because it's a club that will, again, consistently stay in the Premier League because he wants Premier League football because he's trying to increase his own profile. But at the same time, whilst we're in the Premier League, we're not necessarily staying in the Premier League. That's why we're going to have an issue with attracting him. I think we'll have a way of doing so, and I think we will do. But, yeah. I don't like the number of names here that are just have played in the Premier League at some point, therefore know the league. Like Pope, Johnston, Ramsdale. I don't think those three are particularly what we want at the moment. Kelleher's not played a full Prem season. He was a risk at that price. I think the price was fine. I think anyone signing him anyway is a risk. But Koch didn't make it in the Premier League, but smashing it in Germany. Yeah, but he's playing a sort of different-ish role over there in a different system. And let's be honest, no one was looking particularly good in the Premier League because Jesse Marsh did not help. It's not particularly, from what I've seen. What? If you're meaning Simicast, I hope so. It's not just cancer, but other prostate thing. Yeah, the prostate is a minefield, and if we're able to do what we can to sort of support charities that help with that, then that'd be nice. How do I join and pay rent? I mean, you can just subscribe if you press the subscribe button down there, or you can be a channel member. I think I've got a link to channel membership in my description. I can't quite remember, but it's totally up to you if you want to do that. Like, that's the case of giving someone money for doing things on the internet, and I understand that that's not always a thing that people want to do, so it's fine. That'll be good. It's fine. I'm always checking myself. What? This is a weird thing that YouTube is experimenting with. It's doing a community leaderboard, which is, if you do comments and stuff, it moves you up or down the leaderboard, which I think is an odd choice, but it's an interesting choice. Still think we won't buy until July the 1st. I mean, that's fine. And at the same time, that's not especially a problem. Sign for Leeds, 1.5 million, 20k a week wages, 3-year contract. I mean, if that was the way it worked, then I would ask exactly the same, but I feel like that's not doable. Neurologist appointment today and X-ray tomorrow, but all good. Okay. Let me know how that goes. As Jess said, we can line up all the signings, but most of them can't come through the door or paperwork signed until July the 1st for PSR reasons. Yeah, it's not that we can't, it's that it's better for us to wait, essentially. Donson and Rodrigo look good. That's true, but no one else did. Okay. Was it a myth? Was it a myth? Was it a myth? Let's head over to FB Ref, because this is one of those things where I'm going to have to go through some numbers and look at the relegation season. So, if we say Jesse Marsh, exact date, 6th of February. Oh my god, it was nearly a birthday present for me. Wonderful. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so prior to Jesse Marsh's firing, we hadn't won a game of football in 7 in the league, to be completely clear, because I am not completely convinced that counting 5-2 win over Cardiff City in the FA Cup needing a replay or 3-1 win over Accrington Stanley in the 4th round are things that we should consider as victories for him. The 2 before that were beating Bournemouth and beating Liverpool, which, let's be honest, the Liverpool one, absolutely saved by Meslier. He had a wondrous match that day. And the Bournemouth one got kind of fucking lucky. Before that, we didn't win in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 2 wins in the league in 17. That is a terrible manager. That's what terrible managing is. Let's have a look. Not in the description, but there is the join button. I will put that back in the description, but you can also press the join button if you fancy. They're both available to you. I've got no idea, so I'll have to have a look and find out. Chelsea was shit, sank the ship. Was it cock? Had a better points average than the other managers and a better defence than Bielsa. Did he? Because we lost 5-2 to Brentford. Conceded 3 against Fulham, conceded 4 against Spurs, conceded 3 against City, conceded 2 against West Ham, 2 against Aston Villa, 1 against Forest, 2 against Southampton on the opening day. Not opening day, on the second day of the season. He was stinking. And the reason that Bielsa was consistently pumped is he didn't have any players. He had to put Archie Gray on the bench in the Premier League at the age of 15, maybe 14. And that's fine, but when the XG that you concede is always the easiest chance possible, then Jim, you rarely have bad takes, but this is one. This is a pretty hefty one. There was this as well. That was horrendous. Right, anyway, we're moving on from Marsh because not worth that attention. Bielsa's last season versus Jesse's last season. Yeah, I'm talking Jesse's last season. The one where we only won 2 matches in 17 games. That one, that last season. That was horrific. It was not good. And I think trying to make the argument that that's actually fine is it ain't the take that you want it to be. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Oh, well. There's potentially arguments that you got unlucky at points, but he didn't get that unlucky. There's getting unlucky, and then there's we've won 2 in 17, and Crescencio Somerville is the reason for both of those wins. Not a good place to be. No Smoke Without Fire seems to be convinced that Leeds are winning the Premier League every single season for the rest of time, and I like the enthusiasm. I can completely back that. Is it accurate? I don't think so, but it's fine. There is this as well. Yeah, the setup at the time was not professional enough. It was not Premier League-y. It tried, but it failed. And that's ultimately a little bit of a problem. Anyway, if anyone has any questions, I've got some hair in my nose, that they want to chuck in my direction, do so now. If anyone wants to talk basically anything, then just go for it. It'll be lovely. It'll be nice. It'll be good. And we can be happy. You think Ampadu or Tanaka get dropped from the midfield, or those the starting midfield duo we go with? It depends on who we sign. Because if we sign someone that is a straight up halfback defensive mode, maybe Ampadu, but I feel like in general we've got a higher chance of Tanaka dropping to the bench, just based on the fact that Ampadu, one of the captains. Our manager's been sacked, wasn't he mentioned about as a potential Leeds future manager? Carrick, was it? Was Carrick there? Oh, I wouldn't want Carrick anyway. A former Scum player for 316 appearances. No, thank you. Hope we get that Japanese CDM to go with amps. I don't know who you mean. I'll have to have a little bit more of a look into that. Would you accept 30 for Ampadu? Probably not. No. And that's less because I don't think he's worth that, and more because I don't think at the moment any of the core of our squad is worth that. What you need when you get promoted is you need that strength of character, like throughout the middle of your team. You need everyone to be friendly and know each other and be happy with playing with the people that they are with. And I think if you take the approach of throw everything we have out the window, sign new players for all of the positions, especially when that original player is in a leadership role, then all I think you're doing is making a bit of a mistake. So probably not. Marita or Harita. I'll have a look. Hidemasa Marita. You said this guy was a defensive midfielder. Considering he's in the bottom third of interceptions, blocks, and clearances, whilst being in the top 15 or 16% of goals, XG, assists, expected assists, and shot creating actions, I'm not too tempted to call this guy a defensive midfielder. He's just a straight up midfielder, I reckon. Good point, which is why I think we keep the likes of Aronson Grove, even if we bring in better options. I mean, we need a bench. That's the thing. You need substitutes, even in the Premier League. So where am I getting these stats from? I'm getting them from FBref, which is a reference site that is very, very, very good with football data. That tends to be my go-to for football information. Who are the current players would you think of Premier League? Let's have a look. Well, I don't know. That's the thing, because how do you define it? Is it players that we think will get consistent appearances? Is it players that we think are of the standard? Is it players that we think are of the standard for the squad? Because Bogle, I think so. Rodon, probably. Tanaka, could be. Piru, if he's played in the right role. James, absolutely yes. Furpo, I think this time round, absolutely yes. Ampadu, yes. I'm sorting by minutes played, which is making this a little bit more difficult. Largy could grow into it. I don't know if he is right now, but I think we've got a good number of players that fit in that. That Brazilian winger with the XXXXX name is supposed to be Rafinha Mark II. Paixao, who I think is a distinctly good footballer, and I would love to have around. There'll be players who are non-negotiables. I think Ampadu would be one of those players we want to keep. I think weirdly Furpo, I think, fits into that. Players we would like to keep, but would sell, and players we want to sell. I think want to sell, you're talking Gelhardt. I don't know where Bamford fits. I don't know. Right. Okay. To run you through the EPL teams that they were sold by, Bogle wasn't at an EPL team at that point. However, they weren't particularly happy with selling him. Rodon was at Spurs. Not being a starting centre back at Spurs isn't a bad thing. Let's have a look at the others. Pirro from Swansea, but we signed him because he was good there rather than anything else. Where else was I looking? I can't remember who else we signed recently. Ampadu, as another example, was at Chelsea. Not starting at Chelsea. That's not a bad thing, especially when Chelsea are throwing all of their money on the planet towards young players from South America. Largy, again, wasn't sold because he wasn't good enough. Largy was sold because he was very, very good. He got relegated and we wanted him. Not being good enough for a top six side isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I think there's a lot of fans that need to get it out of their heads that we can just sign players that are starting for other clubs. Because if we were to stay in the Premier League for a season, let's pick a team. Fuck it, let's go wild. See Wrexham come up, right? So we're a Premier League club. We're established now. Wrexham get promoted. Imagine if we were to sell Ethan Ampadu to Wrexham because they asked. No, because you're not going to sell players that are key. So you need to pick the players that aren't starting that you can make a good player. Because otherwise you're just you're swimming in markets that you can't afford. Because in terms of signing a consistently starting footballer from a Premier League side, you're talking £40 million. Or higher, because you're basically talking about, we'll pick a number that makes them fuck off. Such an itchy nose. Bamford's a player I keep but wouldn't say no to leaving. I think I'm in a similar spot here. Ampadu was kind of a sleeping giant. I never rated him, but I do now. Yeah, there'll be players like that all over the Premier League. And a lot of people will see them not getting minutes and go, well, you're probably not good enough. But they are. It's fine. 6 players out of the current team that'll be prime. I still don't know what you mean by just being prime. I think the majority of our squad is good enough to be in the squad next season. Could we afford Evan Ferguson and would he go to Leeds? Perhaps a loan move. I don't know if I'd want him. I think we've been looking at better players from bloody hair. But yeah, Evan Ferguson this season, 1, injury prone. That's a problem. 2, 404 minutes and only scored once. I'm not convinced by him. He will become a very, very good player somewhere. I don't think that we need to be the team that makes the risk. No smoke without fire. You are on one today, aren't you? What's going on? Is everything okay there, bud? Yeah, that's not great. If you stuck Grover, for instance, into say Liverpool's midfield, you'd do fine. It depends on having quality around them. Yeah, a lot of football is the system rather than the player within the system. If they make a blatant mistake, then sure, at that point they become the problem. But if they can slot into the system and just do the basics, then it's fine. Thank you. Yes, from specifically, the line is Blackpool North to York Station, and I stop at either Leeds or New Pudsey. Sometimes I'll treat myself, get off early at Hebden Bridge, and I'll go for a nice walk before I continue my ride. Do we get players that are upcoming and are Prem ready, rough diamonds, or do we go for veterans with lots of Prem experience? Sorry, it's been a long day. I think a mix. I think people that are saying it needs to be one or the other are sort of building this false dichotomy. We don't need to make a firm choice of which of the two strategies to go for because you can just combine them. That's fine. I think we should go for a more athletic type of player in the positions in need. It depends on positions, I guess. Anyway, I think physicality as must experience is important. I think it depends on the type of experience, because a lot of people will always point towards like, he's not played in the Premier League. Like, there is football beyond that, and if you, for example, with Paixao, if you shine in Eredivisie, that ain't a bad level. That is a good level of football to find yourself playing at. So to look at players like that, and like far too many people like look down their noses at that, and it's not benefiting anyone. Because realistically, all you are doing is cutting us off from getting certain players, and it makes it a little bit tough. Anyway, what I'm going to be doing is, in a minute, I'll be drawing the stream to a close. I've set up a redirect. I don't think Grove's sold. I think Grove's 6th round. But what I will be doing in a minute is ending the stream and pinging you guys over to Mr. Joe Wayman, who is doing a watch along of the Germany match. I'm trying to think of a thing. Vanna is what I'm looking at in terms of this. I'm trying to think of a thing to pop in as like a raid message, but I'm working out what. I want to make it about Ramsdale. That'll do. There we go. A little bit of a message like that in Joe's general direction to make our opinion of Aaron Ramsdale known. And that'd be good. That'd be quite fun. But yeah, I'm going to end the stream now. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, pop a like on it. That's always massively appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And get your Credit Cup tickets or donate. You can do both of them on the website, and it's absolutely wonderful. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. Spam this message over in Joe's chat in a minute, and I will see you later. Probably. Maybe a video in the morning, maybe a stream. It depends on if I'm able to get the office done. Toodaloo.